Hello and a very warm welcome back to the garden, and this video is all about the simple guide to succession planting. And put simply, succession planting is taking a little but often approach to growing things in the garden. So rather than growing all of one crop at one time, you spread it out over the year. And there are two main benefits to this. The first one is that it prevents you having to deal with gluts, and the second benefit is that it helps prolong the season for that particular crop. The first thing you need to know about succession planting is what sort of crops it works well with and what crops aren't so suitable to be grown successionally. So the top three to grow successionally are your salad crops, for example, lettuce or chard, your root vegetables, and also fast maturing vegetables, for example, your legumes. So these three groups are the three top ones I would focus on with succession planting. For example, we grew broad beans in two different batches. We had the earlier batch, which are just coming into harvesting mode now, and then we've got a later batch just behind me, which is around 3 or 4 weeks behind. So once this is beginning to tail off in terms of production, the batch behind me is going to be prime and ready to take over. And that is just a perfect example of keeping it simple, just sowing at two different times, but really being able to stretch out the harvesting period for this single crop. As I mentioned before, there are some crops where succession planting just doesn't really make sense or isn't needed. An example here, onions and also garlic. These are long storing vegetables, so you don't need to worry so much about succession planting because they're not kind of fast maturing like lettuce, and you want to enjoy them before they bolt. The other thing is that sometimes you only have a limited period of time to sow particular things for the best results. For example, here in kind of zone 8 in Wales in the UK, the best time to plant garlic cloves is October, November time. Anything after December, then the garlic just isn't going to be that good. So we only have a very limited period in which to plant it. Another example of a group of vegetables where it doesn't make sense to succession plant is for winter vegetables. Winter vegetables have the ability of being able to stay outside all winter long. For example, I've just planted out these kale, and because they can stand all winter long, there's no point trying to prolong the harvest just by growing some more kale every couple of weeks. And the same example is swede. The best time to sow swede is May, but then you can harvest those from kind of October through to March. Perhaps the most popular style of succession planting comes from potatoes. So you've got three different groups. You've got your first earlies, like I've got here, second earlies, and also main crop. So usually here in Wales, we start sowing and planting our first earlies from mid-March, and then our second earlies end of March, and then our main crop in April. And what that means is that it helps stagger out the harvesting. So these we can start enjoying the first earlies as new potatoes in June, but then the main crop isn't really going to be ready until late July, August. So by just splitting up the planting times and choosing different varieties, it means that we can enjoy potatoes for longer in the season. And the great thing about potatoes as well is that they store really well. The simplest method to start with succession planting is with radish and salads, where you stagger sowings every couple of weeks. So just up by the beetroot bed, I've got radish that is just beginning to come into harvest size, which is great. Now these ones, and I'll just pull one out for an example, these aren't quite ready yet. They're a little bit small. So the idea is once I finish harvesting these ones, and they will be growing more every day, these ones will then be ready. Now in between the kale, you can see I've got radish here. I've just planted a new row of radish that will be coming out within the next couple of days or so, because I did them around 4 or 5 days ago. So once I'm starting to harvest these will be developed, and in just under 2 weeks time I'll be sowing a new row of radish here. So you can see how easy it is to stagger. As that row is being sown, I'll be harvesting these will almost be ready, and I just keep on working my way down. It's as simple as that. The staggered planting of one specific crop over a set period of time is one method of succession planting, but there's another method which I actually prefer, and this is where it's succession in terms of crops, different crops. So as soon as you've harvested one crop, a new crop goes in. We've just seen the potatoes, and in around 4 weeks' time, when that bed is completely clear, as soon as I've harvested the last potato, I'm going to go in and transplant these leek seedlings, because in 4 weeks' time these are going to be perfect size to be transplanted. So that means I'm really utilising as much space as possible. I'm trying not to leave too many empty beds during the growing season, and it just means that I can maximise the productivity from that same area. Here's another crop that's going to be out by the end of July. It's the broad beans, and what I'm going to then transplant into this space, I think is going to be spinach and also some more lettuce, just to make the most of being towards the end of the growing season but wanting something leading into autumn. The tricky thing is, though, trying to plan for succession planting. Once something goes out, you can then put something new in. And I found the best method to overcome that problem is by using a month-to-month planning method rather than creating an annual planting plan. So if you want to find out more about creating a month-to-month planting plan, then check out this video. And I promise you that creating a month-to-month plan is going to make your garden more productive. There is actually a third style of succession growing, and this is using intercropping and polycultures. So the idea is that you're growing a lot of different crops in the same space, but they mature at different stages. For example, you could intercrop carrots with your lettuce, and the lettuce is going to be first and the carrots are going to be second. And if you want to find out more about these two methods, there'll be links at the end of the video. A quick tip is that you can also succession plant herbs. I've got coriander here, which is just beginning to bolt and it's going to go to seed, and that's fine. I want to save the seed from this coriander, but I can still harvest it. Now, the thing that I forgot to do this year was to start a new batch of coriander around 2 or 3 weeks ago to make up for this. So I am a little bit late. I've just started a new batch a couple of days ago, but with coriander you can spread it out, and also parsley to start a new batch perhaps every month or so, just to keep you going. And if you have undercover growing, for example a polytunnel, then that means you can really go deep into winter and continue harvesting coriander and parsley. Succession planting is one of the many techniques I use in this garden to keep it productive and healthy. And if you want to find out more about how I do particular things in the garden and behind the scenes, then check out my Patreon, where you get 2 extra videos a week for less than £3 a month. And finally, check out the video about polyculture and also about intercropping, which are really going to help maximise the productivity of your garden. Thank you.